Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the frozen world of the Vikings. Imagine stepping into the midst of an Arctic winter, your breath visible in the cold air, but then you walk into a Viking home, and surprise, it's toasty warm. Now, how does that work? In a place where the temperatures can drop well below freezing, how is it that Viking homes never froze? Well, you probably won't survive the cold like the Vikings did, but by the end of this, you'll have a newfound appreciation for their ingenuity. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and the local time. I'm curious where all my fellow history lovers are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. In a world covered in snow and ice, where the cold can feel like an enemy waiting to invade every crack, Vikings faced a daunting task: surviving the extreme cold. The brutal Arctic winters would freeze most modern homes in mere hours, but Viking homes, they were built to withstand it. As you step into one of these homes, you'd immediately notice something: warmth. Despite being surrounded by the biting cold, these homes had a natural ability to stay warm. But how? The answer lies not just in the walls or the roof, but in the understanding of nature's rhythms, the creative use of materials, and some serious ingenuity. The Vikings didn't just rely on luck or some unknown mystical power. Their homes were designed specifically to combat the freezing temperatures. Let's start by thinking about what you're stepping into. Viking homes were built with specific elements in mind: stability, warmth, and protection. They weren't just buildings. They were clever solutions to some serious environmental challenges. Unlike the homes we build today, which often rely heavily on modern technology, Viking homes were the epitome of practical design. Every element had a purpose, every material selected for its ability to shield against the freezing cold. And while the external environment was unforgiving, inside, the longhouse you've just entered was a completely different world. Imagine that cozy, slightly smoky scent that comes from the crackling fire in the hearth, the warmth that seeps through the stone walls, and the soft glow of oil lamps casting flickering shadows across wooden beams. It's all part of a survival strategy that the Vikings perfected. The structure was simple yet brilliant. Their longhouses were long rectangular buildings that were built low to the ground with thick insulated walls. The very design of these homes helped trap the warmth inside, keeping the freezing temperatures from seeping in. They were made to endure, and you can feel that as you step further inside. You realize that it wasn't just about the materials they had available. It was the way they used those materials that made Viking homes uniquely resilient against the cold. It's almost like stepping into a warm embrace after being out in the freezing winds, and that's not by accident. Vikings understood that the cold was a constant threat, and they built their homes to face that threat head-on. So, next time you imagine a Viking home, don't think of a cold, drafty cabin. Think of a warm, bustling sanctuary, brimming with life, despite the harsh winters outside. That's the Viking way, a way built on survival, practicality, and a deep understanding of their environment. The next thing you notice when you step deeper into this Viking longhouse is the construction. The walls are thick, so thick that the cold doesn't stand a chance. You lean against one, feeling its weight and solidity, and suddenly it makes sense. Viking homes were built to trap heat, almost like an insulated fortress against the Arctic chill. The thick walls acted as a natural barrier, helping keep the warmth inside while keeping the cold outside. These homes were no ordinary shelters. They were designed with survival in mind, crafted to shield against the brutal elements that would have otherwise made living in the Arctic nearly impossible. The secret to the insulation was all in the materials they used. Vikings built their homes with timber, stone, and earth. The frame of the longhouse was made from large wooden beams, often sourced from the surrounding forests. These beams, when stacked together, created a thick and solid structure that naturally kept the inside of the house warmer than the outside. This was combined with stone at the base and earth-packed walls that acted as further insulation. They weren't just stacking logs. Every piece was placed thoughtfully to maximize thermal efficiency. As you run your hand along the rough wooden beams, you feel the solid, unyielding texture. The stone foundations, often placed below ground level, helped keep the interior temperature regulated. The Viking builders knew exactly how to work with their environment, to create homes that were comfortable even in the most extreme conditions. Viking longhouses were often built partially underground, with the earth itself providing natural insulation. This method of construction was a brilliant tactic. As the deeper you go underground, the more stable the temperature becomes. Below the frost line, the earth remains at a consistent temperature year-round, which helped keep the Viking homes naturally warmer in winter and cooler in summer. This technique wasn't just about comfort, it was a matter of life and death. In a place like the cold Nordic lands, these homes had to be as efficient as possible, with the earth helping to regulate the temperature. And it wasn't just the materials that made these homes so warm. The layout and design played a crucial role. The Viking longhouse was often a single-room structure, with the entire family or community living together under one roof. The tight spaces meant that there wasn't much room for heat to escape. The closer everyone was to the central hearth, the warmer they'd stay. The fire in the center of the room acted as the focal point for both warmth and socializing. You could feel the warmth from the fire even from across the room, and this clever design ensured that heat didn't get lost in empty corners. The longhouse wasn't just a shelter, it was the heart of Viking life. It was where they gathered to eat, sleep, work, and socialize. And because of its efficient design, the Vikings could live through the harsh winters without freezing to death. You can imagine how, after a long day of battling the cold winds and icy seas, they would return to their homes, where warmth was waiting for them. But the Vikings didn't stop at just the walls and roof. They knew how to take full advantage of every inch of their homes to keep warm. As you look around, you spot fur and leather hanging on the walls. These were more than just decorations. They were essential for warmth. The Vikings made sure their homes were equipped with anything they could find to keep the cold at bay. Fur rugs on the floor, leather drapes across the windows, and animal pelts hanging in various spots were all part of the strategy to trap heat inside and keep the cold outside. Every Viking home had its own version of this warming system, tailored to the needs of the family or community living in it. The use of animal pelts was particularly important. not just as decorations, but as functional materials. The thick furs of bears, seals, and reindeer would insulate the walls and provide additional layers of warmth. These materials weren't just for comfort. They were tools for survival in a world where the cold could kill you if you didn't take it seriously. And then there's the fire. In the center of the room, a large hearth burns brightly. The fire wasn't just for cooking, it was the lifeblood of Viking homes during the winter. Imagine sitting around the hearth with your family, enjoying warmth as the cold winds howl outside. The fire kept the room warm, but it also provided light and a sense of comfort in the darkest months of the year. In the absence of electric heating or modern technology, fire was the Vikings' primary source of warmth, and they knew how to make it work. The hearth was more than just a fireplace. It was a symbol of the Viking way of life, efficient, practical, and community-centered. As you settle deeper into the longhouse, you begin to notice the thatched roof overhead, its texture rough and uneven, but surprisingly effective. The Vikings weren't just working with stone and timber. They had mastered the use of natural materials that grew around them. The roof was made from thick bundles of straw, reeds, or heather, which were tightly bound together to form a weatherproof barrier. The thickness of the thatch served as both insulation and protection, helping to trap warmth inside and keep the cold, wet snow from making its way into the home. The thatched roof might seem simple, but in truth, it was a masterstroke of Viking engineering. Think about the extreme conditions Vikings faced in the winter months. The snow, sleet, and rain that poured from the Arctic sky could easily cause any other roof to collapse or leak. But Viking roofs were built with the utmost care to withstand these elements. The thick layer of thatch absorbed moisture, while the tight packing kept the warmth inside, creating a comfortable interior climate even when the wind was howling outside. You can imagine the Vikings working in teams, climbing to the top of their homes to maintain these roofs. It was no small feat. Keeping a thatched roof in good shape was an ongoing process. They would replace damaged sections of the roof during the warmer months, ensuring that their homes remained strong and durable when the cold hit. These roofs weren't just functional, they were a part of the Viking identity. Each one was a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. But while the thatched roof helped keep out the cold, it also played an important role in keeping the warmth inside. The way the thatch was layered meant that air didn't easily escape, allowing the heat from the hearth to stay trapped in the home. The warm air would rise, creating a natural circulation system that kept the temperature even across the entire space. This airflow was essential for maintaining a comfortable living environment, especially in the dead of winter when the sun barely made an appearance. Interestingly, Viking roofs weren't just about practicality. They were often adorned with symbols of the family or tribe that lived inside, with intricate patterns woven into the thatch or painted along the beams. This added a personal touch to each home, making it not just a shelter, but a unique representation of the people who lived there. These decorative touches, while perhaps not as essential as the structural features, were a reminder that Viking homes were places of pride, identity, and community. As you walk further into the longhouse, you also notice how the heat from the hearth was carefully controlled. Vikings had an understanding of airflow that would have impressed even modern architects. The hearth wasn't just a fire pit, it was the center of an entire heating system. By carefully placing smoke holes and small vents in the walls and roof, the Vikings ensured that the air in their homes remained breathable and warm. The smoke didn't just escape out of the roof in one spot. It was carefully managed, keeping the home warm while ensuring that the toxic gases from the fire didn't linger indoors. This control of smoke and airflow was an art. Imagine sitting by the fire with your fellow Vikings, the warmth wrapping around you as the smoke rises, but it never becomes overwhelming. It's a perfect balance of heat and ventilation, something that modern heating systems strive to replicate. But the Vikings achieved this with nothing more than their knowledge of the natural world and a bit of ingenuity. And then there's the role of the walls. The walls of Viking homes weren't just there for structural support, they were part of the insulation system as well. Made from materials like wood, stone, and clay, the walls were thick and solid, creating a barrier that trapped the heat from the hearth inside. The dense materials absorbed the warmth and helped regulate the temperature throughout the day and night. It's fascinating how much of Viking life depended on their environment and their ability to use what was available to them in the most efficient way possible. In a way, these homes were a perfect example of Viking values: practicality, efficiency, and survival. Everything in the home, from the thatched roof to the thick walls, was designed to keep the cold out and the warmth in. Vikings didn't have access to modern technology or insulation materials, but they made do with what they had, crafting homes that were not just shelters, but tools for survival. As you sit by the fire, you begin to realize just how much thought and effort went into creating these homes. The Vikings didn't just build structures to survive the cold. They created warm, inviting spaces where they could thrive even in the harshest of winters. The warmth you feel now, surrounded by the fire and the solid walls, is a reminder of the ingenuity that allowed the Vikings to conquer one of the coldest regions of the world. Their homes weren't just buildings. They were works of survival art. Now that you've experienced the warmth of the Viking longhouse, you start to notice the subtle intricacies of its design. The layout was as much about functionality as it was about comfort. The Vikings weren't just concerned with how to keep warm in winter. They were creating homes that fostered a sense of community, survival, and, yes, even a bit of joy amid the cold. The tight spaces, the hearth at the center, and the long tables where the community would gather, they all worked together to create an atmosphere of shared warmth. Viking homes weren't just built for individuals or families, they were made for groups. The longhouse was designed to accommodate an entire household or even an entire clan, ensuring that warmth and protection were shared by all. The close quarters were more than just efficient for heat. They were a reflection of Viking culture which valued the importance of community and connection. Everyone was in it together, whether it was facing the dangers of a brutal winter or the challenge of surviving in a harsh, unforgiving landscape. You can almost picture it now. After a long day out in the snow, the Vikings would return to their homes and settle around the central hearth, sharing stories, food, and warmth. there was a sense of togetherness that permeated the Viking longhouse, and this was a key to their survival. In a place where the winters were long and isolation could easily take hold, the warmth of the hearth was both physical and emotional. It kept them connected not just to each other, but to their shared survival. As you sit there, you begin to realize that the Viking home was not just a place to sleep. It was a hub of activity. The central hearth, with its constant fire, was used for everything: cooking, warmth, and even light. The fire provided more than just heat. It was the lifeblood of Viking homes. Without it, the entire system of warmth would collapse. Vikings didn't just rely on the fire for comfort. They depended on it for their very survival. You can imagine how the Vikings would have carefully managed the fire, keeping it low and steady, never letting it die out. Fire was life in the harsh Nordic winters, and it was treated with the utmost care. The hearth also had a social role. It was the gathering point where the family or clan came together to share their daily experiences and plan for the days ahead. Whether it was the crackle of the fire or the conversations around it, this hearth was at the heart of Viking life. Interestingly, there's also the fact that Viking homes weren't just passive shelters. They were designed to be flexible. Vikings weren't static. They were on the move, whether for raiding, trading, or simply exploring. The construction of their homes reflected this. While the longhouse was the core structure, many Vikings also built more temporary dwellings when necessary. They could quickly adapt and create shelters that offered the same warmth and protection. The nomadic nature of Viking life meant that they had to be flexible in how they constructed their homes, but the principles of warmth and insulation remained unchanged. Now, imagine the roof, heavy with thatch, working as an additional insulation layer. The thick bundle of straw and reeds, when woven tightly together, kept the heat in and the moisture out. And when snow fell, it would blanket the roof like an extra layer of insulation, helping to keep the warmth inside. It's amazing how something as simple as thatch could play such a crucial role in Viking homes. The Vikings understood that heat rises, so the thick, insulated roof ensured that the warm air didn't escape into the freezing sky. The cold Arctic winds that howled outside could have easily snuck into the Viking home, but instead, the thatch acted as a shield. The snow, in fact, was a blessing rather than a curse. It would pile on the roof, adding an additional layer of insulation. The wind couldn't tear through it, and the cold couldn't creep in. It was another brilliant adaptation to the harsh environment. As you sit back and take it all in, you start to appreciate just how much thought went into creating these homes. The Vikings were master builders, able to work with the natural world around them to craft structures that weren't just sturdy but incredibly efficient. Their homes were warm, not by accident, but through an understanding of materials, design, and the very forces of nature that surrounded them. The more you think about it, the more it becomes clear that Viking homes were more than just shelters. They were expressions of Viking culture, a symbol of their ingenuity and a testament to their ability to thrive in one of the harshest climates on Earth. They weren't just surviving, they were living, and living well, even in the frozen, unforgiving world of the Arctic. As you take a deeper look around the longhouse, something else catches your eye.
The floor beneath your feet, although dirt and packed earth, was also part of the Vikings' clever strategy for staying warm. The Vikings had a deep understanding of how different materials interacted with temperature, and they used the earth itself to help regulate the internal environment of their homes. The floor was intentionally compacted, not just for stability, but because the dense, packed earth acted as a natural insulator. If you've ever felt the difference between standing on snow and standing on earth, you'll know that earth holds a more stable temperature than the freezing air above it. During the long winter months, the frozen ground would start to thaw slightly beneath the surface, and the constant, underground warmth would rise through the packed floor. This made the Viking home even more efficient at trapping heat. It's almost like the earth itself was part of the home's heating system. In fact, the floor wasn't just about warmth. It was also a critical component in keeping the home dry. The Vikings were surrounded by cold, wet conditions, and moisture could easily seep into their homes, making everything damp and uncomfortable. But by compacting the earth on the floor and ensuring proper drainage, they effectively kept moisture at bay, allowing the floor to remain dry even during the wettest months. This clever use of earth and natural resources wasn't just for comfort. It was a survival mechanism. You might also notice the subtle smell of damp earth mixed with the scent of smoke from the fire. It's earthy, familiar, and comforting. This smell, while perhaps foreign to us today, was a staple of Viking homes. It was part of their daily life, and it spoke to their resilience in such a challenging environment. The Vikings didn't just adapt to the cold, they made their homes as comfortable as possible, creating a balance between warmth and nature. Another essential element of the Viking longhouse was the way they used natural materials to craft furnishings and tools inside. The Vikings didn't have access to modern conveniences, but they made do with what nature provided. You can see the rough-hewn wooden benches along the walls, the wooden tables covered with fur, and the simple wooden chests used for storage. These furnishings weren't just functional, they were designed with the environment in mind. The materials used to make these items were often the same materials used to construct the homes themselves, creating a harmonious flow between the building and its contents. These pieces of furniture weren't just objects in the home, they were vital parts of Viking daily life. The benches where families would sit and eat were made from wood, a material that was plentiful in Viking lands. The skins of animals were draped over them, providing both comfort and warmth. The skins not only helped insulate, but also served as a symbol of Viking culture. The use of animal pelts was widespread, and each piece had a specific purpose, whether for warmth, comfort, or even decoration. One particularly fascinating thing about these homes was the way the Vikings ensured their homes were as self-sufficient as possible. You might notice small details, like the hooks on the walls, designed to hold tools or weapons which were essential for daily life. Vikings were farmers, hunters, and warriors, and their homes reflected all these aspects of their existence. The tools they used for everyday tasks, like knives, axes, and cooking utensils, were stored in a way that allowed them easy access. This wasn't just about survival, it was about maintaining a lifestyle that was deeply connected to the land and the world around them. The use of these tools and weapons wasn't just practical, It was symbolic of the Viking identity. The longhouse, though a place of warmth and comfort, was also a place of constant readiness. The Vikings were never far from their tools, ready to defend themselves or hunt when necessary. It's almost as if every aspect of the home was designed not just for comfort, but for a lifestyle of preparedness. In this harsh Arctic world, survival wasn't just about staying warm. It was about being prepared for anything that might come your way. As you sit by the fire, thinking about the Viking way of life, you realize that their homes were the embodiment of their culture. They didn't just live in their homes, they thrived in them. They crafted these spaces with care, knowing that every element, from the thatched roof to the packed earth floor, played a vital role in their survival. These homes were a testament to their ingenuity, resilience, and deep connection to the land and the elements. It was a lifestyle forged in the coldest, harshest conditions, but made warm by the clever use of natural materials, practical design, and a sense of community. And that's what makes Viking homes so extraordinary. They weren't just buildings, they were warm sanctuaries created from the natural world, offering comfort and survival in a place where few could endure. The Vikings made the Arctic their home, not just through strength and force, but through brilliant, simple designs that allowed them to live comfortably even in the coldest winters. As you sit back and reflect on the Viking longhouse, you realize something important. The Vikings didn't just rely on the physical structures they built. Their homes were deeply entwined with their way of life, their beliefs, and their relationship with the natural world. Even the materials they used held meaning. Every piece of wood, every stone, and every animal pelt had a story, a purpose, and a connection to their environment. It wasn't just about staying warm, it was about creating a home that was in harmony with nature. In the quiet of the longhouse, surrounded by the warmth of the fire and the comforting scent of smoke and earth, you can almost feel the pulse of Viking life. The hearth flickers, casting a warm glow on the walls, and you begin to understand how central this fire was to their world. The hearth wasn't just a source of warmth, it was the heart of the home, the place where families gathered, where stories were told, and where Viking traditions were passed down. It was around this fire that Viking life truly took shape, and the warmth it provided was not just physical, it was emotional and cultural. Viking society was built on a strong sense of community. The longhouse, with its central hearth, was a symbol of this. In a time when survival was often precarious, the Vikings understood that warmth and comfort could only truly be appreciated when shared. A home wasn't just a shelter, it was a place of connection, a hub where individuals came together to share food, stories, and companionship. The cold might have been harsh outside, but inside there was a sense of belonging and unity. And the fire wasn't just for warmth, it had many purposes. It was used to cook food, boil water, and even to forge weapons or tools when necessary. The hearth served as the backbone of Viking life, and its importance couldn't be overstated. Everything, from the materials used to build the home to the structure of the longhouse itself, was designed with this fire in mind. The fire was central to both survival and comfort, and everything in the home revolved around it. As you move through the longhouse, you begin to see the clever ways in which the Vikings used the space. The furniture, though simple, was arranged to maximize warmth and efficiency. The seating around the hearth wasn't just for comfort, it was strategically placed to ensure that everyone had access to the warmth of the fire. The benches were positioned just close enough to the fire to provide heat, but far enough away to avoid being overwhelmed by the smoke. It was a delicate balance, and the Vikings had perfected it. Even the storage of food and tools was designed to be efficient and effective. The Vikings understood that every resource had to be used to its full potential. The longhouse wasn't just a place to sleep. It was a place where food was stored, tools were kept, and weapons were ready for use at a moment's notice. It was a multifunctional space that supported every aspect of Viking life, from survival to socializing. You can almost hear the quiet murmur of conversation as families and clans gather around the fire, eating, laughing, and sharing stories. These moments around the hearth were the backbone of Viking society, and the longhouse, with its warmth and structure, provided the foundation for those moments. The Viking home was more than just a shelter from the cold. It was a place of culture, community, and tradition. As you look around, it's clear that Viking homes were designed not just to survive the cold, but to create a space where people could live, thrive, and connect with one another. The warmth of the hearth wasn't just physical warmth, it was a warmth that extended to the soul, a comfort that came from being surrounded by family and community. It's a reminder of the deep bond the Vikings had with one another, a bond that helped them endure even the harshest winters. In a way, the Viking home was a reflection of their resilience. Despite the unforgiving environment they inhabited, they found ways to turn their homes into havens of warmth and safety. They used the resources available to them with incredible skill and creativity, crafting homes that were not only practical but deeply meaningful. Their homes were their sanctuaries, a place where they could endure the cold and find comfort in the presence of those they loved.
The Vikings didn't just survive the cold, they conquered it. They took the harshest environment imaginable and transformed it into a place of warmth, community, and life. Their homes were a testament to their ingenuity, resilience, and connection to one another. And as you sit by the fire in this Viking longhouse, you can feel that legacy. Warmth, strength, and the unbreakable bond of community. As the night deepens and the fire continues to crackle in the hearth, you notice another important feature of Viking homes: their ability to adapt to changing seasons. Though the winters were long and harsh, the Vikings had a deep understanding of how to live not just through the cold months, but also through the unpredictable transitions of the seasons. Viking homes were built with materials that allowed them to stay cool in the summer while still providing warmth in the winter. You might think that the thick stone and wood walls, which served so well during the winter, would trap heat in the summer, turning the longhouse into an oven. But the Vikings were nothing if not adaptable. They didn't simply hunker down during the winter. They also took care to make sure their homes could be comfortable during the warmer months. The same thick walls that insulated the house from the cold also provided a buffer against the summer heat. During warmer days, the walls would absorb the heat and slowly release it at night, keeping the interior cooler.
This natural temperature regulation was made possible by the way the Vikings designed their homes. The layout of the longhouse wasn't just about warmth in the winter, it was about creating an environment that could sustain life throughout the year by making use of the thick earth-packed floors, insulated roofs, and strategically placed vents. The Vikings created homes that were comfortable in both the harshest winters and the warmer summer months. As you sit in the longhouse, you can almost feel the quiet of the summer months in your bones. The fire, while still essential in winter, isn't necessary year-round. During the summer, the hearth would be used more for cooking and social gatherings than for warmth. The natural insulation of the house would keep the temperatures inside at a steady level, even when the outside world fluctuated between hot days and cool nights. Another feature of Viking homes that speaks to their connection with the seasons is their use of natural light. During the long Arctic winters, the days were short and the sun barely made an appearance. Vikings had to make the most of the light they had, and their homes were designed to maximize that precious daylight. Large openings in the roof and walls, known as smoke holes or small windows, allowed the limited sunlight to filter into the longhouse, creating an atmosphere of warmth even when the sun was hiding behind a blanket of clouds. You can imagine how valuable this light would have been during the dark months of winter. It wasn't just about illumination. It was about morale. As the Vikings huddled around the fire, they would rely on every sliver of sunlight to brighten their spirits. Even though the light was scarce, it was enough to create a sense of connection with the world outside, a connection to the rhythms of nature that governed their lives. The Vikings were keenly aware of the changing seasons, and their homes reflected this knowledge. They didn't just endure the seasons, they used the very forces of nature to their advantage. By adapting their homes to the environment, they were able to survive the extreme conditions of the Arctic while still maintaining a sense of balance with the natural world. As you sit in the warmth of the longhouse, surrounded by the stone walls and thick roof, you begin to understand how deeply connected the Vikings were to their surroundings. Their homes were not just structures, they were extensions of their way of life, carefully crafted to align with the cycles of the earth and the weather. Every element of the home, from the roof to the floor to the furnishings, was designed to help them navigate the challenges of their environment. The more you reflect on it, the more it becomes clear that Viking homes were not just about surviving the cold. They were about thriving in an unforgiving world. They were carefully built to offer protection, warmth, and comfort in the harshest conditions, all while maintaining a balance with the world around them. The Vikings didn't just conquer the cold, they mastered it, crafting homes that were as much a part of the landscape as the earth itself. In the end, Viking homes were more than just shelter. They were symbols of the Vikings' resilience, creativity, and adaptability. They took the tools and resources available to them and transformed them into homes that not only protected them from the elements, but also helped them live more comfortably in a harsh and unforgiving environment. As you look around the longhouse house one last time, you realize that the true warmth of these homes wasn't just in the physical heat, it was in the way they embodied the Viking spirit. These homes weren't just places to survive, they were places to live, to grow, and to thrive. And that's what made the Viking home such an extraordinary achievement. The warmth of the longhouse, its sturdy walls, and its clever design start to feel like a part of you. It becomes clear that Viking homes weren't just places of refuge. They were symbols of a culture built on strength, survival, and adaptability. The more you think about it, the more impressive it becomes that such small, resourceful communities could build homes capable of withstanding such brutal conditions, all while still creating a space that was comfortable, social, and uniquely their own. One key aspect of Viking homes that stands out is how the use of space and materials wasn't just practical. It was reflective of their way of life. As you move through the longhouse, you realize that everything was designed for function, but it also had a deeper meaning. Viking society placed great importance on strength, endurance, and practicality, and these values were mirrored in their homes. Take the furniture, for example. The Viking longhouse was designed around the hearth, where the warmth and comfort of the home were most felt. The benches and tables around the fire weren't just for sitting and eating. They were gathering points for the entire family or clan. In Viking culture, family and community were paramount, and these homes fostered an environment where people could come together, share stories, and bond over the shared experience of surviving the harsh conditions of the Arctic. The Vikings' use of animal pelts for furnishings, floor coverings, and even insulation wasn't just about practicality. It was a reflection of their connection to the land and animals around them. Every piece of fur, every leather rug was a direct result of their resourcefulness and respect for the world they lived in. To survive in the cold, the Vikings had to rely on every resource available to them, and their homes were built with this in mind. In many ways, the Viking longhouse was also a microcosm of Viking society. The hearth, at the center of the home, was the heart of their social life. It was where everything happened: the cooking, the storytelling, the bonding, and even the planning for future expeditions or battles. The hearth was where the warmth of the fire not only protected the Vikings physically, but also brought them closer together emotionally and socially. It wasn't just a source of heat, it was a symbol of life, survival, and the warmth of family and community. This focus on communal living and togetherness extended beyond just the family unit. Viking longhouses often housed extended families, sometimes entire clans. The shared warmth and shelter were vital to their survival, and the proximity they lived in fostered a sense of unity and shared purpose. There was no room for isolation in Viking society. Every Viking home was a place where everyone came together, no matter the hardship outside. The social aspects of Viking homes were particularly important during the long, dark winters when daylight was scarce. The Vikings knew that survival wasn't just about enduring the physical cold. It was about maintaining mental and emotional health as well. Being surrounded by family and community provided comfort and stability in an otherwise harsh environment. It was the hearth and the relationships fostered around it that helped the Vikings endure the long winter months. As you reflect on the role of the hearth, you can almost hear the sounds of Viking life filling the space, the crackling of the fire, the laughter and stories shared, the soft murmur of everyday life, all of it happening within these sturdy, insulated walls. The longhouse wasn't just a home, it was a sanctuary where the Vikings could find warmth, connection, and hope during the darkest days of winter. And then there's the relationship between the Vikings and the land they inhabited. Their homes were built not just with the materials they found around them, but with a deep understanding of the environment they lived in. The Vikings didn't fight against the land. They worked with it, using its resources to craft homes that would protect them from the extreme cold.